Hello, this is Tenacious Earl with a little Friday night. How you doing? Um, so I've had APBA soccer now for a few days, and I thought I would just share some of my early impressions from the game. Um, I've gotten a lot of comments, and I appreciate the comments that I've gotten. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very positive, 1 being negative, I'd say the comments are around a 3.5 to 4 from those who have played the game before. Um, Maybe that seems a little low, but it does seem like there's a negative impression about this game. And, all right, so let me I'll lay it out here. Um, I think this is going to sound. I don't want to. I don't want to sound flip. I don't want to sound mean. I don't want to sound. But I think if you're used to Stratomatic baseball, this game here is going to cause you some issues. Now, I haven't played Soccer Blast. My impression is from talking to many people that probably Soccer Blast has a better flow. I think that's. I think aside from, well, again, and I haven't played Stratomatic football, so I don't know how second season compares to that. I would say that this is on a similar plane to second season as far as time taking goes. It's a thorough game. Probably not as thorough as second season. I think second season there's a lot of extra. There's a lot of detail in that game that that APBA soccer. I don't think it really intends to get that deep. I mean, what it does is try to do is get you deep enough to the point where you're feeling the flow of the game. And I think that it has some really solid points. I think that's one of them is that, as you sit here, I could take you through my score sheet, which is a little bit of a wreck. I've designed one. Thank you, Benny Blades. He gave me his custom created score sheet for Soccer Blast, and I made some tweaks to that. And I've actually made further tweaks. Part of my problem right now is my printer seems to be cutting off like the left edge a little bit, which is a bit annoying for me. But I've got some sheets that you get if you can't get to the full width of the page, then the lines start condensing a little bit, and it's a little small to write in. But as far as the game flow, I think some people would say it's tedious. In you for instance, I can walk. I'll tell you what. Let's. Hey there, Craig. I mean, I'll tell you what. This is what I'll do. I'll walk you through some of the score sheet stuff. That might be easiest. Just so I could just show you how I keep my score sheet real quick. Maybe that's an easier way to describe how this thing works. So this is in front of you. So, and I'll try blowing it up even more here so you guys can actually read it, hopefully. So, I mean, this was Roma and Liverpool. As you can see here, Roma was victorious on their home pitch, 3-1. So these were Champions League teams from this past spring. A little bit disappointed that I feel like the disciplinary. I had no red cards. Not that I would expect a red card, but no yellow cards. Whereas I feel like it would be a little more common to get one. Hey, Mark Russell. But so, this, and again, I'm ham and egging it a little bit here as far as you change time every time you kick off. Then you determine where the ball has gone. Then you roll off, and which player controls it. Then from that that time you hit the player on his card, and that should move time, and that's going to give you either another pass or a defensive attack, or challenge, a block, a header, something like that, and that moves it along again. So, but anyway, let's just so like I kick off. Liverpool started kicking off, and so this is how I did my possession. I have little, and I've changed this again, but this is probably a decent way, or the way I'm going to do it from now on. I shade in visitor if the visitor controls. So the visitor here is Liverpool. Kickoff and goes to section D, which is maybe 30 yards out from goal, and 2 is going to be your second highest rated offensive player, who is Mohamed Salah. So then you end up with a pass to, or it basically says D2. You could say a pass. I guess what I figure this is like a sequence of passes, and it ends up back with Salah in that area D2, or in D, with him being player 2. And so when I started, I actually I kind of messed this up because he ended up with a foul committed, and I thought I was supposed to roll off the player identification, but I don't, because as I was reading further on the forums and stuff, the players' ratings, so what you have here is you have a card, and so if you come up with 48, that's foul committed. They've got 48 scattered around their cards enough that it should recreate their fouling propensity, or their propensity to be fouled. So instead of being Milner, it should be Salah fouled. Probably the ball just got away from him, and he clattered into Schick a little bit. That did come off the player identification, and so Roma got the ball. So you get a direct kick from X, and it goes to C7, which C7 is let's see, Federico Fazio, the Argentinian. Fazio then fouled again, or no, actually he well, it should have been Fazio was the one who was fouled by Lovren. So again, this is where I was starting to learn that whole procedure, and I've got it down. Again, this is kind of like how you have to go through a game when you're learning it, is just you start realizing that certain things are certain ways. So anyway, you get a direct kick. It goes, and that's from area, or zone C, which is basically over near the corner. The direct kick comes over to A to 6, and 6 is Constantino Manolas. And from there, he is defended, which they are actually no. They lost the ball in that challenge. It was stolen, and it was recovered by Jordan Henderson, and it should have been an X. When you lose the ball, it goes to X, and that was so. Anyway, then there was a defensive header, and let's just go down here. You kind of keep going that way. There's a lot of jockeying, some defensive. Like there's a block, and then it ends up. So that was Roma. They lost the ball. It goes to zone D, and that's Andrew Robertson for Liverpool at that point. So anyway, that's kind of that ends up being some of the flow of the game. Right here, I took him out. His name is Stephen El Shaarawy. Got the first goal for Roma in the 9th minute. And then a flurry from actually Roma controlled the first half. They had I'd say 8 of their, maybe 7 of their 10 shots, and probably 5 of their 6 shots on goal were in the first half, and Liverpool had no shots. So it was really one-way street in this first half, although it was a 50-50. It was 50-50 in terms of my possession as far as like looking at these down the side. But here in the 18th, you have a shot on goal that was saved from Nainggolan. Comes back out, they retain possession. Schick gets a chance to take a shot from way out, and fingertip save there. It comes back out again. Cycled back out to Nainggolan, and he does get a shot from out deep, and that one does go in. So that's a little unrealistic. And I will say another unrealistic segment was in the second half when Schick got a goal from basically probably 35 yards out. And that was one of the criticisms that I've heard. I may have to do a little bit of digging as far as homebrewed sheets, because as you can see here, F8, so 8 is Schick, and he gets a goal here. And that's, if I show you the chart here where F is, I'll show you this thing in just a second. But so that's F. I'll zoom it out. You see maybe one of those every month, a shot like that finds its way in. And from what I read is that happens a little too often. But that was also an old post, and I've kind of hoped that they had fixed it. And it probably is a little bit rare because you do have to subtract 5 from people's shot on goal rating. But Schick, that took him from 36. You subtract 5, that brings you down to a 31. It's still a pretty decent chance, which just doesn't make sense. I almost feel like you need to subtract 10 from area F, or even make it where it's like area X. And but I would say that that's a little too generous for someone shooting from that far out. But anyway, Liverpool did get a goal late, 82nd minute. Mane got a shot off, a header off a corner kick, and he was able to head it past Alisson, the Brazilian goalkeeper. Salah got the assist, and that's how it ended up 3-1. So, yeah. So, I mean, I also want to say, so that's, again, I like the idea of keeping possession and seeing how that, rates out. I would have thought that Roma would have maybe had a little bit better possession because their defensive rating is 2 better, and I thought they might pick up more loose balls. But in the end, I think Liverpool probably has better passing statistics, and so that probably manifests on the player cards, and so they ended up with a 54% advantage. Now, I did substitute out for Roma. Schick came out. He was kind of a defensive forward, and El Shaarawy the other forward. So they ended up really in a 4-5-1, but I didn't pull them into that formation. I left them in a 4-3-3, just basically pushing a defender into sort of as the wings there, as more of defensive wings. I'm not sure how well that really manifests itself in the game, as far as how, I suppose that with the chances that come up on the cards, that gives you better opportunities for passing, and so maybe bringing a defender into a more offensive position if they're down in the B or C area and they're not as effective at passing, it's going to give up more chances to the opponent. And so, that's, tactical stuff about soccer that we, you'd have to play a lot of these games to really see how that shakes itself out. So another one of the complaints is that the charts are all in this big book, and you've got to flip around and flip around. So I went ahead and made a single sheeter of most of the common references during the game. I made a couple of little boo-boos here. I'm going to have to show you how all this works at some point. It's a little early for me to be trying to preach how to play this game exactly when I think I'm still learning some of the ins and outs. But, you know, a lot of the things, you know, so when you roll off a player's chart, it takes you to the tactics chart. You have to take the team with the ball, their tactical formation against, and then you look down at the defense's tactical formation and find out the number. So you roll. So let's take Mane for instance. You know, you roll the dice. Let's say you get a 15. Well, that takes you to 7, which gives you a pretty good chance for a shot in all of, you know, most of the zones closer to goal. Let's take it back to but let's say you get into these middle numbers, like into the 29s or the third, you know, like 32, 30. Those are probably going to lead to defensive stalemates, if you will, or defensive maneuvers, which is basically maybe an errant pass that is sort of a 50-50 ball, and that's where you go to this defensive chart here, just translated from the book, and then a number of these chances, the better the defensive team you are, the more that you just outright get the ball on a steal, or on a steal, and it actually dictates to you where the team takes the ball from there, and you pick up from, for instance, if, you know, Roma had a 5 defensive rating at home, so if they rolled 15, they got a steal, and they were able to take the ball right to B, and then you roll off player control to figure out who's got it in basically 18 to 25 yards out from goal. But down here, so as you get weaker in defense, you end up having these challenged headers and a block that you aren't quite able to control, and you have to then use the loose ball chart, which is here, and that's more or less each team has a rating, an overall rating, and you take the comparison of the two to then determine how the loose balls fall in the game. So the team, in this case, it's a 50-50 shot if there's no difference. Literally, those are 50-50 balls. But if you have a team that's better, like Roma on home is 2 better than Liverpool on the road, then actually they were only 1 better. They were 5. Roma was 5 and Liverpool was 4. So 1 better. So you get 3 extra chances if you're Roma in this game, in those 50-50 chances. So it's a little less for Liverpool. So, and then as you get closer and closer, if the difference is 4, the higher, basically you never have to roll for a loose ball, because the better team is going to take it every time. But some other ones, when you kick off, you roll off of a chart like this. These guys are all, you roll these 2, and then you take red, then white, 52 there. But now in these charts here, you roll, and then you add a 9. So if you're kicking off, you would go to zone D. If you have an indirect kick from an offside, from the other, the other team was offside, 9, you'd go to, it would take you to C, basically a long kick. Throw in from zone X, both of these. The reason that it says from zone X is that and that's another thing that it doesn't really tell you. It doesn't really go into detail in the book. I think there could be some better explanations in the rule book, but if there's a foul, if there's a contested, 50-50 ball, and the defense wins out, then basically they take over from X. So an indirect kick off an offside play it starts from X, which is more or less, I think of that as roughly your own defensive half. Okay. Same thing with a throw in. You're going to be throwing it in from your own defensive half when there's an out of bounds. The direct kick chart here. If you roll off a player's card and it says shot, you use their shot on goal, and if it's on goal, then you check against the goalkeeper. If it's above his shot on goal number, then you go to the missed shot chart here, and that gives you the various ways that the play continues after that. You can get some corner kicks. Each guy has a corner kick rating, A, B, or C. You also adjust shots. So anyway, these are like some common charts that you use a lot. So that means 9 times out of 10, I can keep the chart focused on the tactics chart where I can just get those rolls. It still takes you time, and I think that is a lot of people's complaint. Again, I played second season. I'm going to turn this thing around. One last thing. This is my latest chart that I've developed. I've really, let me zoom it in here a lot. I've really decided that for most of the results in this game, you can pretty much, if it's a player in a zone, you could just put like D2, C3. There's a little, I have to figure out exactly how I'm going to, the notation is going to be important to try. But anyway, let's say you get a foul or a shot on goal, things like that. They're going to come over here in this side over here, where I just add a little more detail. I'm not sure that 36 lines is going to be enough. So, you've got 180 events in a game plus stoppage time that are, when I say events, results that mean that the clock moves ahead. So 36 is that's about probably 20%. So I don't know. That might be 20% there, but then there may be other games where there's a lot more action. So I guess we'll just have to see. I'm always open to further modifications. I may go to just plain old scratch paper when it's time. Now I'm going to get this back around, and I'm going to look at some of the comments. So, and again, I said, just a second, I got to turn this around. I said earlier, I said earlier that, may have been a little, it's easy for me to get a little bit crass with what I say, and I do feel like it's easy to jump to that conclusion if you're someone who likes Stratomatic baseball, or trying to think of what other really quick, if you're into like the basic forms of most of the games that are baseball related, and then you come and play a game like this, or heck, History Maker Golf. I mean, like if you want to play around with one player, you can get that in half an hour, 45 minutes. Or even a group, you can get that in probably 45 minutes to an hour. But if you're going to do a tournament, you're eating up a day. Tomorrow, Steve Tower over at After Further Review, he's planning to, I think, play out a whole tournament from, first round, doing the cut round simulation and third round and everything. He's going to eat up a day doing that for the most part, I would venture to say, or at least a good portion of his Saturday. Hey, it's fun. We love doing it. But, I think we all have, you have to start realizing when you're gaming that you can take breaks. You can come back to it. What I like to do, I'll just hold it up here. See, what I did is last night I took a little index card and just wrote on there Liverpool throw from X. And El Shaarawy was injured for 2 minutes. He wasn't going to get back till the 32nd minute. So, you could do something like that just to make sure you refresh your memory at the point where you're coming back to. I know everybody. I'm just like a lot of people. I like closure. I like nice bookended things, but I don't know. It depends on, do you want realism? Do you just want a quick good time? And I mean, there's nothing wrong with a quick good time. That doesn't sound right, but especially with that which has been in the news lately with the recordings and all that stuff. But you know what I mean. A fast game that you can get in a half an hour. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just here to say that I don't think there's anything wrong with a game that takes you a couple hours to bring to fruition and culmination just because it's got a few extra rolls. Let's see. Jerry. Interesting game, APBA Soccer. Of course, the game will take forever if you record every single die roll result. Yeah, and that may be something that I end up deciding to... I may... And actually, Lazy Warlock, I appreciate you mentioning that, because that is something that is a potential way to speed things up, is just to ignore all of the superfluous D2s and C5 and B1, et cetera, that don't really have any consequence to the any of the statistics that you're keeping, really. I mean, if you like keeping possession stats, you can do that without having to record all those little hitches and jumps and stuff. APBA Bats. See, and I mean, APBA Bats, I guess, is a game that's one of those takes you just a few minutes when you're having when you have a little window to get one in. But and like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. So, speaking of golf, I really need to get the UK tournament in, and I think I'm going to take a short respite from learning APBA Soccer to plow through that tournament at some point this weekend. I might hold off till tomorrow night doing the cut rounds and all that stuff, just because I know Steve is going to do a tournament, and I really don't want to impede his I mean, not that I would pull anybody away from it necessarily, but there's no reason to go head to head with somebody if we don't need to. I don't know if anybody has any questions. You're welcome to ask. I don't intend to be here for much more than 10-15 minutes, but oh no. Sorry, I just had an email come across. I am a former crossword constructor. I haven't constructed a crossword in probably 15 years almost. It's getting there. But I just saw an email. I'm a part of I'm still on an email list for crossword constructors, and a guy named Mel Rosen, who was he actually wrote he's written a lot about the business of building crosswords and marketing them to newspapers and such, and he passed away, so that's too bad. But yeah, so let's see. Occasionally I'll set aside one day to play a longer game, one to savor, as it were. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I end up having to do with the History Maker Golf as well. It takes 3.5, 4 hours to, like, I don't know. I don't play for speed. I'm not a speed merchant. I know that's probably not the greatest thing to when you got a YouTube channel to not be able to just crank out dice rolls and quickly identify stuff. I've tried to do it, and my accuracy goes to pot. So I think I tend to just be on the side of liking to be as thorough as I can. I still get things wrong, but just trying to clean up my cards here now, as I need to do good. I need to get ready to do something else. But let's see. May have to come up with some shorthand notations. Yeah, that's right, Craig. Well, and I kind of like what Lazy Warlock had to say, which is, you know, if I do, which I am very tempted to try out a Premier League replay of some sort. I would really have to cut out some of that other notation. It's really not that important. Nobody really. I can't imagine anybody. Now, I mean, if you had a computer with you, and I mean, again, it would take you a long time, but you could notate who had good passes, who had bad passes, and you could kind of come up with some ball security stats and stuff. But it's just it would take you a long time. But yeah, so again, I've just kind of got to get these guys out here. These are the top 156, really the top 160 from the Tenacious Golf Tour, with with 4 injuries, which prevent those poor souls from being able to. I take it Carius is probably not very good in goal. I mean, he gave up 3 goals. He's got a lot of 10s on this card, which 10 is the goal roll. So, and anybody who watched the final knows that he had a blinder of a game in that one. So, with that being said, let's see. You got some more here. I guess it depends on how deep of stat you want to keep. Yeah, single team replay, Earl. You're going to do full boat. Crazy storm coming Jerry's way. Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'm tempted to. So what I'm tempted about is that my Tenacious League was. What was that? 270, and a Premier League season would be 380, I think. 20 teams, 38 match days, 10 matches a match day. That should be 380, and there's no playoffs. It's really tempting. It'll be. I think if I might play a couple of, kind of like Craig did with his modified Major League Soccer league that he's getting ready to start. Then I may do a couple preseason games, and if I end up finding that it's just not my cup of tea, then I may just wait for the next season to come out and then try it then. Or I think it would be fun to try. The question would be, would I do actual lineups, or would I kind of play it by ear and do it myself? I don't know. That's kind of feel like part of the fun is doing it yourself. But there are some things that are a little difficult. So, for instance, let's take this game here, Roma and Liverpool I just played. Pretty sure Liverpool was using a 5-man back. So that's an interesting tactical situation if you're doing a 5-3-2, 2 or whatever it is, you have no way of doing it in this game, right? I mean, you have no opportunity to use alternate backlines. So I guess that would be a potential criticism, is that if you really enjoy the tactical side of the game, and maybe that's an opportunity for someone who has a tactical mind to develop a soccer game that is more in tune with that. You could have things that change the way it all. But again, the more detail you get, the more time it takes. But let's say you're you coach. You're like coaching. Like a pressing style. That changes. Or as opposed to just laying back and letting the other team come at you when they have the ball. Playing wide versus playing narrow. Maybe playing wide gives the outside players some better passing stats or ability to make to make runs, to make dribbles along the sideline. Or if you play wide, then maybe you defend wide, then the middle is a little more open. You could also have different. If you play a 4-4-2 diamond, which is kind of I feel like that's the American formation, then the middle is really clogged up because you've got four central midfielders that are just, hanging out there trying to, you basically have a scrum of 8 midfielders just like beating the heck out of each other. That's American soccer for you. As opposed to, a wide formation. There's just things you could do, but that's okay. Craig's got to put the kids to bed. But Earl, trade him yes. Right. Yeah, that's I see what he's saying. We're in a fantasy baseball league together, and yeah, that's the kind of guy he is. He wants to give me his crap, and then he gets my I don't know. Think of something good with a C. Crown. I don't know. Okay, so look forward to some History Maker golf here in the next couple of days, and get some more APBA. I really should also try and figure out something to do with baseball. I feel like Tabletop Baseball Plus, I really should figure out something to do with baseball here in the next couple of weeks. Even if it's just a quick series, 3-game series. But anyway, all right. Well, I got to finish putting this game away and start thinking about the tournament coming up here. So, sayonara, guys. Leave comments if anybody who's watching after the fact has any questions about the soccer game. Again, I'm not the most knowledgeable at the moment, but I do feel like I have gotten a game under my belt. At least I feel like I've got the mechanics decently figured out. There's still plenty of questions I have, and I haven't hit some of the charts in the book yet. I haven't hit some of the other stuff, but for the most part, I feel like you pretty much hit 90% of what's going to be going on just by playing a 90-minute game. So let's see. Formation-wise, not sure any current soccer game on the market can accurately portray. Might be wrong. That's what Ken Castro says, and I just think... See, I think most game designers would see reviews for APBA Soccer and the time that it seems to take people, and it would automatically make them think, if I do anything that is super technical, tactical, I mean, I'm not going to have, I'm not going to be able to sell them. The word's going to get around, and nobody's going to buy my game. So, I think that's why you could see that. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment. Maybe I'm trying to deny myself, deny, I spent some money on this. Maybe I'm somewhat in denial. I don't know if I am or not. I do think it's fun to see, and if you're into soccer, you are going to have games where you just kind of jockey in the middle of the field for a while, and you get like 2 shots on goal in the first half and 5 in the second half, and that's it. And 0-0. It's just the way it goes. That's soccer. As I said to someone that I know who has played some soccer games, I mean, soccer is a symphony, not a rock and roll concert. You're not going to get the big fireworks and the, long-haired dude jumping off the drum set, off the big or off the amplifiers, and you aren't going to have your guitar player with shorts on, kicking his leg up as he's playing his solo, banging his head, and all that good stuff. That's not soccer. That's the NBA. That's hockey. Soccer is your your classical piece, which has ebbs and flows, and and I would venture to say that a lot of people in the U.S. who are used to the 4 big sports would think soccer is a bore, and I guess you just learn to appreciate the ebbs bring about more excitement when it is time for the flurry of shots you get sometimes at the end of the game. But anyway, all right, I said I was going to get off here a little while ago. Now it's been another 10 minutes. This is a 43-minute video. See you tomorrow or Sunday with some of the Championship of the UK Tenacious Golf Tour event. Till then, have a good night, everybody, and enjoy your tabletop sports. Roll on, and God bless.